Antananarivo, then temporarily French Tananarive, also known by its French colonial shorthand from Tana, is the capital and largest city in Madagascar. The larger urban area surrounding the city, known as Antananarivo-Renivohitra, is the capital of Analamanga region. The city is located 1,280 meters above the sea level in the center of the island, and has been the island's largest population center since at least the 18th century. Antananarivo was historically the capital of the Merina people, who continue to form the majority of the city's estimated 1,300,000 inhabitants, as well as the surrounding urban areas, which in all have a total metropolitan population approaching 3 million. All 18 Malagasy ethnic groups, as well as residents of Chinese, Indian, European and other origins, are well represented in the city. Antananarivo is the political, economic, educational and cultural heart of Madagascar. The Presidency, National Assembly, Senate and Supreme Court are located here, as are 21 diplomatic missions and the headquarters of many national and international businesses and NGOs. Antananarivo also hosts the largest number of universities, nightclubs, art venues, medical services and other social service institutions of any city on the island. Several national and local sports teams, including the championship-winning national rugby team, the Magas, and several basketball and football teams, are based in Antananarivo. Antananarivo was founded from about 1610 to 1625, when the Merina king Antananarivo expelled the Vazimbar inhabitants of the village of Analamanga at the highest meeting point of two forested ridges, rising above the surrounding highland plains. Declaring it the site of his capital, Antananarivo built a rover that expanded to become the royal palaces of the Kingdom of Merina. According to oral history, he deployed a garrison of 1,000 soldiers to capture and guard the site. The hill and its city retained the name Analamanga until the reign of King Andrea who renamed it Antananarivo in honor of Antananarivo's soldiers. The city served as the capital of the Kingdom of Merina from its founding until 1710, when Merina split into 4 warring quadrants. Antananarivo was declared the capital of the southern quadrant. It remained thus until King Andrea of Ambohimanga captured the province and restored its role as capital of a united Kingdom of Merina in 1794. His diplomatic and military successes extended Merina far beyond its traditional borders, bringing the lands of neighboring ethnic groups under Merina control. These conquests were continued under his son, Radamarai, whose control ultimately extended over 2/3 of the island, leading him to be considered the King of Madagascar by European diplomats, with Antananarivo as the island's capital. Antananarivo remained the island's capital after Madagascar was colonized by the French in 1897 and remained thus after independence in 1960. The French killed off many of the original inhabitants of the island and made French the native language. Antananarivo has expanded gradually from the royal palaces at its center, which dominate every view from the location at the peak of a curving ridge 200 meters above the surrounding Dominiquemichaud plains. In the 17th century, the plains were transformed into paddy fields to meet the population's need for rice. They were covered with housing developments as the city's population grew rapidly in the 20th century. Around the palaces, which were destroyed in a 1995 fire but have since been partially reconstructed, lies the historic district that was formerly populated by members of the Andriana. Many of the homes are preserved. The Analikli Valley at the base of the ridge was the site of a Friday market established in the 18th century that, until being discontinued in 1997 due to traffic congestion, was considered the largest open-air market in the world. This neighborhood was further developed under French rule and continues to serve as the capital's economic heart. The city is managed by the commune urbaine d'Antananarivo under the direction of its president of the special delegation NY Havana Andrea Mangiato, appointed in March 2014. Limited funds and mismanagement have hampered consecutive coup efforts to manage overcrowding and traffic waste management, pollution, security, public water and electricity, and other challenges linked to explosive population growth. Major historic landmarks and attractions in the city include the reconstructed royal palaces and the Antananarivo-Renivohitra Palace, the tomb of Reniharu, Simbazaar's Mahamasina Stadium, Lake Anozi, 4 19th century martyr cathedrals, and the Museum of Art and Archaeology. Etymology: Antananarivo was originally the site of a town called Analamanga, meaning blue forest, in the Central Highlands dialect of the Malagasy language. Analamanga was established by a community of Vazimba, the island's first occupants. Antananarivo, king of the Merina people who migrated to the region from the southeast coast, seized the location as the site of his capital city. According to oral history, he deployed a garrison of 1,000 soldiers to successfully capture and guard the site. The hill and its city retained the name Analamanga until the reign of King Andrea Masanavalona, who renamed it Antananarivo in honor of Andrianjaka's soldiers. History: Kingdom of Merina. Unlike most capital cities in southern Africa, Antananarivo was already a major city before the colonial era. After expelling the Vazimba who inhabited the town at the peak of Analamanga Hill, Andrianjaka chose the site for his rover, which expanded over time to enclose the royal palaces and the tombs of Merina royalty. The city was established in around 1610 or 1625 according to varying accounts. Early Merina kings used Fanampawana to construct a massive system of irrigated paddy fields and dikes around the city to provide adequate rice for the growing population. These paddy fields, of which the largest is called the Betsimitatra, continued to produce rice. Successive Merina sovereigns ruled over the kingdom of Merina from Analamanga through King Andrea Masanavalona's reign. This sovereign gave the growing city its current name. He established the Andahalo town square outside the town gate, where all successive sovereigns delivered the royal speeches and announcements to the public, and assigned the names of numerous locations within the city based on the names of similar sites in the nearby village of Antananarivo. Andrea Masanavalona designated specific territories for the Hova and each Andriana subcaste, both within the neighborhoods of Antananarivo and in the countryside surrounding the capital. These territorial divisions were strictly enforced. Members of subcastes were required to live within the designated territories and were not authorized to stay for extended periods in the territories reserved for others. Numerous fedi, including injunctions against the construction of wooden houses by non-nobles and the presence of swine within the city limits, were imposed. Upon Andrea Masanavalona's death in 1710, Merina split into 4 warring quadrants and Antananarivo was made the capital of the southern district. During the 77-year civil war that followed, the eastern district's capital at Ambohimanga rose in prominence. The last king of Ambohimanga, Andrianimpoinimerina, successfully conquered Antananarivo in 1793. He reunited the provinces of Merina, ending the civil war. He moved the kingdom's political capital back to Antananarivo in 1794 and declared Ambohimanga the kingdom's spiritual capital, a role it still maintains. Andrianampoinimerina created a large marketplace in Analamanga, establishing the city's economic center, Kingdom of Madagascar. By the time Andrianampoinimerina's son Radamarai had ascended the throne upon his father's death in 1810, Antananarivo was the largest and most economically important city on the island, with a population of over 80,000 inhabitants. Radama opened the city to the first European settlers, artisan missionaries of the London Missionary Society, who arrived in 1820 and opened the city's first public schools. James Cameron introduced brickmaking to the island and created Lake Anosi to generate hydraulic power for industrial manufacturing. Radama established a military training ground on a flat plain called Mahamasina at the base of Analamanga near the lake. Radama's subjugation of other Malagasy ethnic groups brought nearly two-thirds of the island under his control. The British diplomats who concluded trade treaties with Radama recognized him as the ruler of Madagascar, a position he and his successors claimed despite never managing to impose their authority over the larger portion of the island's south. Thereafter, Merina sovereigns declared Antananarivo the capital of the entire island. Radama's successor Renivohitra invited a shipwrecked craftsman named Jean Laborde to construct the tomb of Prime Minister Renivohitra, Dominiquemichaud, the largest palace of the rover. Laborde also produced a wide range of industrial products at factories in the highland village Mantasoa and a foundry in the Antananarivo neighborhood Isaraka. Renivohitra oversaw improvements to the city's infrastructure, including the construction of the city's two largest staircases at Antananarivo and Ambondrona, which connect La Ville Moyenne to the central marketplace at Analamanga. In 1867, following a series of fires in the capital, Queen Renivohitra II issued a royal decree that permitted the use of stone and brick construction in buildings other than tombs. LMS Missionary's first brick house was built in 1869. It bore a blend of English, Creole and Malagasy design and served as a model for a new style of house that rapidly spread throughout the capital and across the highlands. Termed the Tranogasi, it is typically a two-story brick building with four columns on the front that support a wooden veranda. In the latter third of the 19th century, these houses quickly replaced most of the traditional wooden houses of the city's aristocratic class. The growing number of Christians in Merina prompted the construction of stone churches throughout the highlands, as well as four memorial cathedrals on key sites of martyrdom among early Malagasy Christians under the reign of Renivohitra. Until the mid-19th century, the city remained largely concentrated around the rover of Antananarivo on the highest peak, an area today referred to as La Haute Villa La Haute. As the population grew, the city expanded to the west. By the late 19th century it extended to the northern hilltop neighborhood of Andahalo, an area of low prestige until British missionaries made it the preferred residential district and built one of the city's memorial churches here. From 1863 to 1872. From 1864 to 1894, Prime Minister Antananarivo governed Madagascar alongside three successive queens, Rasoherina, Renivohitra II and Renivohitra III, affecting policies that further transformed the city. In 1881, he reinstated mandatory universal education, first introduced in 1820 under Radamarai, requiring the construction of numerous schools and colleges, including teacher training colleges staffed by missionaries and the nation's first pharmacy, medical college and modern hospital. Antananarivo built the Antananarivo-Renivohitra Palace in 1873 as his residence and office at a site near the royal palace. French Madagascar. The French military invaded Antananarivo in September 1894, prompting the Queen's surrender after a cannon shell blasted a hole through a building at the rover, causing major casualties. The damage was never repaired, and a hollow square was remodeled to feature a gazebo, walkways and planted landscaping. Claiming the island as a colony, the French administration retained Antananarivo as its capital and transcribed its name as Tananarive. They chose Antananarivo as the site for the French Governor-General's residency. Upon independence it was renamed Antananarivo-Renivohitra Palace and converted into presidential offices. Under the French, tunnels were constructed through two of the city's largest hills, connecting disparate districts and facilitating the town's expansion. Streets were laid with cobblestones and later paved. Sewer systems and electricity infrastructure were introduced. Water, previously obtained from springs at the foot of the hill, was brought from the Ikopa River. This period saw a major expansion of La Ville Moyenne, which spread along the lower hilltops and slopes of the city centered around the French residency. Modern urban planning was applied in La Ville Basse, which expanded from the base of the city's central hills into the surrounding rice fields. Major boulevards like Avenue de l'Indépendance, planned commercial areas like the arcades lining either side of the avenue, large parks, city squares and other landmark features were built. A railway system connecting Sorano Station at one end of the Avenue de l'Indépendance in Antananarivo with Tomasina and Fianarantsoa was established in 1897. Beyond these planned spaces, neighborhoods densely populated by working-class Malagasy expanded without state oversight control. The city expanded rapidly after World War II. By 1950 its population had grown to 175,000. Roads connecting Antananarivo to surrounding towns were expanded and paved. The first international airport was constructed at Aravonamamo, 45 kilometers outside the city. This was replaced in 1967 with Avato International Airport, approximately 15 kilometers from the city center. The University of Antananarivo was constructed in the Ankatso neighborhood, and the Museum of Ethnology and Paleontology was also built. A city plan written in 1956 created suburban zones where large houses and gardens were established for the wealthy. In 1959, severe floods in La Ville Basse prompted the building of large-scale embankments along the edges of the Betsimitatra rice fields and the establishment of new ministerial complexes on newly drained land in the Anosi neighborhood. Post-independence. After independence in 1960, the pace of growth increased further. The city's population reached 1.4 million by the end of the 20th century. In 2013, it was estimated at nearly 2.1 million. Uncontrolled urban sprawl has challenged the city's infrastructure, producing shortages of clean water and electricity, sanitation and public health problems, and heavy traffic congestion. There are more than 5,000 church buildings in the city and its suburbs, including an Anglican and a Roman Catholic cathedral. Antananarivo is the sea-city of Madagascar's Roman Catholic Archdiocese. The city has repeatedly been the site of large demonstrations and violent political clashes, including the 1972 Rotaka that brought down President Philibert Serrano and the 2000 2009 Malagasy political crisis, which resulted in Andry Rajoelina replacing Mark Ravalomanana as head of state. Geography. Antananarivo is situated approximately 1,280 meters above sea level in the Central Highlands region of Madagascar, at 18.55 south and 47.32 east. The city is located centrally along the north-south axis of the country, and east of center along the east-west axis. It is 160 kilometers from the east coast and 330 kilometers from the west coast. The city occupies a commanding position on the summit and slopes of a long, narrow, rocky ridge extending north and south for about 4 kilometers and rising to about 200 meters above the extensive rice fields to the west. The official boundaries of the city of Antananarivo encompass an urban area of approximately 86.4 square kilometers. It was founded 1,480 meters above sea level at the apex of 3 hill ranges that converge in a Y-form, 200 meters above the surrounding Betsimitata paddy fields and the grassy plains beyond. The city gradually spread out from this central point to cover the hillsides. By the late 19th century it had expanding to the flat terrain at the base of the hills. These plains are susceptible to flooding during the rainy season. They are drained by the Ikopa River, which skirts the capital to the south and west. The western slopes and plains being best protected from cyclone winds originating over the Indian Ocean were settled before those to the east. Greater Antananarivo is a continuous, urbanized area spreading beyond the city's official boundaries for 9 kilometers north to south between Amboe Merina and Ankadimbohawaka, and 6 kilometers west to east between the Ikopa River dike and Tana. The population of the Greater Antananarivo area was estimated at 3 million people in 2012. It is expected to rise to 6 million by 2030. Climate. Under the Köppen-Geiger climate classification system, Antananarivo has a subtropical highland climate characterized by mild, dry winters and warm, rainy summers. The city receives nearly all of its average annual rainfall between November and April. Frosts are rare in the city, they are more common at higher elevations. Mean temperatures range from 20.8 degrees Celsius to 14.3 degrees Celsius.